Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna Ace back again with another video. While I was uploading the last video that I did, and if you haven't seen that video yet, please do, because it's the first in a new series of movie review videos where you get to participate. If you want to learn how you get to participate, then watch that video. In fact, I would love participation from other people as part of this series. Now, as I was uploading, I thought I would check to see what the mail situation was, because I'm always expecting packages. Sometimes it's rather disappointing. I go out there and check and there's nothing. Sometimes there's a package, sometimes there are 2 packages, sometimes there are 3 packages. Well, I went out there and Shazam! There were 5 packages. Of course, there could have been 3, because I'm expecting another 3 packages. By the way, this is dangerous because sometimes my joints lock up. And sometimes these 2 fingers come down and the middle one doesn't. And that could be mistaken for something that I'm not intending. Anyway, one of the packages contained Laserdiscs, very special Laserdiscs. In fact, I will be showing them first thing when I do my next Mega Laserdisc ads video. The other 4 packages contained video games. Now, the other 3 packages that I'm waiting on, one contains video games, homebrews, in fact. The second package contains Laserdiscs from the Netherlands, and the third package contains a rather special, well, it's special to me, VHD from Japan. Okay, now to get to the video games that I received. Oh, by the way, I went online and found a rather interesting news story that George Lucas has spilled the beans and said that Star Wars Episode 7 was going to feature in the cast Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. And he said he had always intended for them to be in Star Wars Episode 7 even before Disney got involved, which is kind of strange because as he was making the prequel trilogy, he stated that we're only going to be 6 Star Wars films, not the 9 he originally promised. Well, Disney is in negotiations with Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill has come out and publicly stated such. Carrie Fisher has said she's going to be in Episode 7, and haven't heard anything about what Harrison Ford has to say about all this. The director has been assigned to Episode 7, J.J. Abrams, who, if you'll remember, directed the reboot for the Star Trek franchise. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. I still say that there'll be a no Star Wars pinball machine, because Stern licenses a lot of things for their pinball machines. 24 and CSI and Rolling Stones and Elvis and Indiana Jones, based on all 4 films. Tron Legacy and Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, and did I say Rolling Stones? Playboy. I mean, just a ton of licenses. And they license a lot of stuff from Disney. And Disney puts these pinball machines in their arcades throughout Walt Disney World. Most of the resorts have an arcade, and there's an arcade inside Hollywood Studios, that theme park, and there's a big one in the Magic Kingdom, right beside Space Mountain. In fact, if you exit Space Mountain and make a right-hand turn, you'll go into the arcade. Well, anyway, I'm getting off the subject here. The Atari games that I picked up, I received the other day. First up, Demons to Diamonds. Requires the paddle controllers. Another Atari original. There's a screenshot. So far, so good. I blame Atari because even back in the day when I bought my VCS, one of the things that irritated me was how difficult it was to get into the packaging without damaging the packaging. Now, this game was also released by Sears. The Sears version is identical except has Sears packaging, but it's much more difficult to find and therefore worth more than this version, which is common as dirt. Okay, next up, this game is from one of the worst third-party publishers the Atari 2600 ever had, which is saying something because there were some truly awful third-party publishers on the Atari 2600. Atari had no control over who published games for their system, which is one of the things that led to the video game crash of '83. The other being Atari themselves coming out with really horrible games like E.T. the Extraterrestrial and their Pac-Man port. Anyway, the company I'm talking about is Froggo Games. I hear some of you out there say, no, not Froggo Games. Yes, Froggo Games. Compatible with the Video Computer System 2600 and 7800. Now, what Atari did, what Froggo did, was take games published by others and re-release them, generally under a different name. This, however, is not under a different name, but they did steal it from a publisher that went under. Look at those graphics. It looks just so real, doesn't it? This is release FG1001. In fact, what I'll do. Karate. Froggo Games. Rarity rating R2 with a minus sign beside it. That meant that the rarity was going down and not up at the time this was published, which was 11 years ago. Back then it was going for $7. Another one of those who ripped off who scenarios. This game is the same as Ultravision's Karate. History tells us that Froggo's version is the ripoff. We're taking a phone poll of people who like this game. Just call 1-800-DUMBASS. It's been 12 years, still no calls. I wonder if they've had any calls since then. That's 11 years later. So that would be 23 years. It's been 12 years, still no calls. Reminiscent of the Mattel and Television game Boxing in that the designers went with large characters and sacrificed detail and color. You're again reminded that the company Froggo didn't care much for us video gamers, as they took yet another dud, this time from Ultravision, and reissued it. They gave The graphics, a rating of 1. Sound rating of 4. Overall, a rating of 1. Now, the version released by Ultravision has a rarity rating of R9 with a minus sign beside it. 11 years ago, it was going for $150, much more uncommon than the Froggo version. Comical cover art depicts a karate dude who looks like someone just kicked him in the privates. Same cartridge design as Ultravision's Condor Attack. Now, interestingly, if I go to the, well, I'll skip the non-US section, which has over 2,000 games in it. Okay, prototypes, non-cartridge items, rumor mill has somehow passed homebrew, which is rather thick section. Karate Plus, released by Hoser Video. Rarity rating R1, $11. Designed by Chris Rydberg. A graphics hack of Froggo's Karate, released in 2002. Hoser also released Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. What's interesting about that is, well, it says, designed by Adam Thornton, a 4K cart based off of the homebrew title Dark Mage. So you have a homebrew which is based off of another homebrew, Dark Mage. Let's see here. Designed by Craig Troutman, released by Hoser Video. A text game released on both 4K and 8K carts. The 4K was the beta version, the 8K was the final version. Okay. Next up, that was sealed, by the way. Another game from Froggo. Cruise Missile. That doesn't look like a cruise missile. That looks like a flying saucer. But what do I know? Release FG1007. Copyright 1987. That's the other one from Froggo. Copyright 1987. And when Froggo went under it, they still had games in development for the 2600 and for the 7800. Their games for the 7800 were a huge marked improvement over their games for the 2600, which wouldn't have been hard to do. Cruise Missile. Froggo. Rarity rating R2, $7, aka Exoset. Like most of Froggo's games, this title is simply a ripoff of another game, in this case, Exoset, release FG1007. Exoset. Panda. Rarity rating R7, $35, aka Cruise Missile. This game was actually designed by Ultravision, but never released. It was then picked up by various cut rate operations. Number 109. Cut rate as in Froggo. Okay, next up for the 7800, which is backwards compatible with the games for the 2600. Barnyard Blaster. New. At least it was new in 1988. The NES had already been out 3 years by then. For use with Atari light gun. See, I did not know that when I bought it. Oh, well. Atari 7800. One thing that's happened since this came out is the homebrew section for the 2600 huge in here, and there have been a lot of homebrews that have come out since this was published. I know because I have some of them. But when this was published, there were no homebrews for the 7800, and now there are several. I know because I have some, and I have another one coming. Okay, Barnyard Doohickeys. Barnyard Blaster, Atari, rarity rating R1, common as dirt, worth $2. This game can only be played with the Atari XG-1 or compatible light gun. Requires light gun. CX7859. Okay. For the links now, I have quite a sizable collection. For the links, including a homebrew. This is not a homebrew. Hydra. Notice the Atari logo on the front there. This is released PA2073, copyright 1992, Tengen Incorporated, which was the home version, our home division of Atari Games, which was the arcade unit. Tramiel bought the computer and everything else division, and the arcade division was sold separately, and that's what Tengen came from, was the arcade division. Copyright 1992 Tengen, copyright 1992 Atari Corporation. Links. Okay, Hydra. Atari, rarity rating R1, $1. I won't go through the list of people who designed it. Developed by New FX, based on the 1990 Atari Games coin-op. Special thanks to Steve Rhino. What did he do? He's not one of the designers. Note the Atari symbol on the box artwork. While this game was pretty cool in the arcades, this conversion suffers from poor controls to the point where it's almost unplayable. Copyright 1992 Tengen, release PA2073. Now, what's really cool is there was a game published for the Lynx called Crystal Mines 2. Rarity rating R1. Okay, Songbird Productions has released a number of homebrews for the Lynx and the Jaguar. In fact, recently I got an email from them within the past week or so that 5 of their Jaguar homebrews are now available once more. They only make up a batch of about 300 per game, and if there is enough demand, they make up a second batch, and that's what they've done. They've come out with another batch of 300 for 5 of their games, and they're not strictly homebrews. They are games that had been in development at various developers during the lifespan of the Jaguar, and then when the plug was pulled on the Jaguar, all of these third-party developers ceased developing these games, and in many cases they lost the code and so forth. And Carl Forehand, who runs Songbird Productions, did a lot of legwork, and he went around and he got permission from various third-party publishers for the right to release these games. Some of the cases they said, well, you'll have to find the code first, but if you can find the code, yeah. And he found the code and he released it. In fact, he had to do a lot of searching to find the boot code for the Jaguar CD. For a while he was putting a bootstrap code on the games that he was releasing on cartridge, put those in the cartridge slot, and then the games that were coming out, homebrew games from other publishers, would boot up. But then he found the code that actually goes on the CD, and he put that on there, and he has made it freely available so anybody can use the actual code so that it will play in any Jaguar CD if you can find a Jaguar CD that works. Okay, they came out with, Songbird did, Crystal Mines 2 Buried Treasure, designed by Ken Beckett, Carl Forehand, developed by Songbird, levels by C. Scott Davis, Carl Forehand, Harry Dodson, Stephen Anderson, and Dan Lucid. Carl hooked up with designer Ken Beckett, who revealed a hidden feature in the original game to DI new levels through the Comlinks port hooked to a PC. 125 new levels also includes original levels. Songbird titles are available through Songbird Productions. Release CF2008, copyright 2003. This is currently on back order at Songbird, but the reason I bring it up is they are now offering a port for the DS, the Nintendo DS. Well, that game is called simply Crystal Mines and not Crystal Mines 2 Buried Treasure. It features all 125 levels, including the buried ones. They're all included on that DS port, which they have in stock. I believe it was $39.95. The cartridge version for the Lynx is on back order. I've mentioned this in the past. I get these catalogs every week from oldies.com. I ticked off a whole bunch of different things I'm interested in, so I get one just about every week. I'm leading up to something, trust me on this. Okay, this is the one I got just the other day. Really cool. Out of print, factory sealed VHS tapes. And full moon. Yay, full moon. Plus a section on books and magazines. Anyway, oldies.com, which owns Alpha Video and collectibles, records, CDs, all that good stuff. Okay. No knock on the door, so I didn't get my home brews today. Until next time, or at least not yet, stay awesome. And watch my previous video. Okay, now to get to the video games that I received. Oh, by the way, I went online and found a rather interesting news story that George Lucas has spilled the beans and said that Star Wars Episode 7 was going to feature in the cast Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford. And he said he'd... Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna Ace back again with another video. While I was uploading the last video that I did, and if you haven't seen that video yet, please do, because it's the first in a new series of movie review videos where you get to participate. If you want to learn how you get to participate, than watch that video. In fact, I would love participation from other people as part of this series. Now, as I was uploading, I thought I would check to see what the mail situation was, because I'm always expecting packages. Sometimes it's rather disappointing. I go out there and check and there's nothing. Sometimes there's a package, sometimes there are 2 packages, sometimes there are 3 packages. Well, I went out there and Shazam! There were 5 packages. Of course, there could have been 3, because I'm expecting another 3 packages. By the way, this is dangerous, because sometimes my joints lock up. Sometimes these 2 fingers come down and the middle one doesn't. And that could be mistaken for something that I'm not intending. Anyway, one of the packages contained Laserdiscs, very special Laserdiscs. In fact, I will be showing them first thing when I do my next Mega Laserdisc ads video. The other 4 packages contained video games. Now, the other 3 packages that I'm waiting on, one contains video games, homebrews, in fact. The second package contains Laserdiscs from the Netherlands, and the third package contains a rather special, well, special to me, VHD from Japan.